to the Lighten Up podcast with Lauren Polly, your invitation for living on the lighter side of life. I'm Lauren Polly, and I'm delighted you have chosen to join me today for episode 191, Giving Up the Hard Knocks of Life. Hallelujah. Today, I want to talk about our crazy mindset and our crazy subconscious behavior patterns that always seem to lead us into harder work than is needed. Kind of wanting to be the underdog and overcome something, looking for the problem to solve, taking pride in actually navigating those tough circumstances, and as a result, creating more work for ourselves, really turning away from the ease that is possible for living, the ability to just create for fun and to live for fun, and all of the weird ways we get twisted up in doing things the hard way. This has been kind of a big one for me. And I'm just having a lot of ahas. Even over the last week, it's been quite shocking to me the more I start looking at this and peeling it back. So I wanted to have this conversation with you today to see if we could contribute to each other. It's been fascinating, like I said, over this past week, just looking at where there has been a tough circumstance and I've navigated it successfully, good for me, and what pride that brought up in me. It was a point of pride for me. And it was interesting to look at, like, wow, had that thing been easy, like I made the choice, it just got created, and ta-da, there we go. I don't really know if I would have had the same amount of pride. I don't know if I would have had like my, puffy chest, back straight, big smile on my face kind of thing. And I went, wow, this is so fascinating. And how much energy am I actually feeding into this and looking for the hard way, looking for the harder circumstances, because inevitably that's what you create. Your point of view creates your reality. So if you have the point of view that your pride, that your ownership, that your like yay for me moments come from problem solving, come from navigating tricky circumstances, being the underdog who finally proves their worth, all of those interesting energies, guess what you end up creating? And I know this may be a bit of a stretch for those of you who may be new to this tool. This one about your point of view creates your reality comes from Access Consciousness. And it is such a huge one. And I find people, even in other systems, who are exploring something similar. They're just using different languages for it. Basically, our reality is more malleable than we like to give it credit for. We have the ability to be malleable in of ourselves. We have the ability to change. And when you're able to do this work of changing your perspective, then the circumstances of your life get to be changed as well. But a lot of us don't go about it that way. We want to change the circumstance, thinking if we problem solve and hard work and, pedal to the metal, then eventually our inner world will change enough. It's actually the opposite. It's the inner landscape that you need to do the work on. It's the perspective shifts from the inside out that actually change the outer part of what is showing up for you. And this hard work thing is nothing different. So I'd like you to look for yourself. Where are you in love with working hard? Where are you kind of like getting that prideful moment, just like I had this last week of, wow, look what I did, and no one else could have done that. Okay, but look what I'm doing. I'm making it a prideful moment here. There's a lot of significance that comes on with it. And when there's a lot of significance, guess what? Again, that ownership, that pride comes of it. And before you know it, that's what fills you up more than anything else. What is your perspective on things that are easy? Things where you don't have to work that hard. Those moments where a door just swings open and you just walk right on through. Now, personally, I have that capacity. I have that easefulness. And it was fascinating when my book first came out a couple of years ago. I started to notice that this door would open and I would walk right through, and it was pleasant and delightful, and things just grew. And after a while, after getting enough judgment from people of, oh, wow, it's just way too easy for you. How come it works for you and doesn't work for me? I started to notice myself shutting it down. And all of a sudden, things became harder. I had to search for the connections where before the connections just appeared. I had to kind of like elbow and lean against the door where before the door just swung open. So I started to notice how my inner perspective started to change from the people around me, and as a result, my outer circumstances changed as well. They became harder. So, where has life been easy for you before? Where have you had doors swinging open? Where have you just had that easy yes of like, yeah, I'm going to go there. Yes, I'm going to say yes to this. And you just had the things, the people, the connections, whatever show up for you. And where were you judged so harshly for it that, oh, well, you didn't work hard enough to actually deserve it? It shouldn't be that easy for you. All of those hosts of things that come at you, or you were just really aware of the people around you starting to kind of become resentful of you, where why is it so easy for you and it's not so easy for me? So many of us end up shutting ourselves down, not from the outright judgment, but more from those kind of subtle, sneaky resentment energies that truly have nothing to do with you. They're all about the other person. It's that person's own thing that they're becoming resentful. It's that person's choice for the hard way, disgruntledly looking at your choice for the easeful way, that then kind of comes into your space, and before you know it, you go, oh, wait a second, maybe I shouldn't choose the easeful way. Maybe this isn't right. Maybe this isn't valid. So what do? Your point of view changes and you start creating a different reality, one where you're working harder than not. If it sounds like a mishmash of interesting weirdness and your head is spinning, congratulations. This is what we do to ourselves all the time. The more and more and more I work with people, the more workshops I lead and one-to-one sessions where we really dive in deep I have, it's fascinating to watch how these kind of perspectives start to morph into change. The beautiful thing of it and the hopeful thing of it, the lightening up of this, is that as easy as it was to twist yourself into the hard knocks way of living, it is that easy too to now twist yourself out of it. Flip it. All it takes is just this awareness work to go, wow, I've let the judgment of others and sometimes the resentment of others take me from my natural state of ease, my preference even for ease, and to twist me into working harder because that's what they choose and they resent me when I don't. It's that simple. It's as simple as me walking around and looking at this prideful boasting moment I was having after this really tricky circumstance. And I kind of smiled to myself and I said, oh my goodness, look how prideful I am right now because I was able to do that when probably no one else would. And how much did I create that really heated, like tricky circumstance so that I could have this sensation? Kind of like this proof of self to me. Okay, that's really fascinating. And look at the point of view I had to create that. That proves my worth. That's somehow fun. Okay, that's really interesting. And I wonder if I didn't have that as a point of pride, if I didn't have navigating tricky circumstances and kind of like being able to get through it, but also get through it in a really, really, really big way, if that wasn't a point of pride for me, would I actually be creating things that were more easeful and more fun? I get yes. So what do I need to do? Just flip my perspective. So often, again, the change in our life, which of course we're all looking for, comes from the inside out, not the outside in. It's changing your point of view. It's changing your perspective that actually lets your living change. And if that sounds tricky, it actually isn't. It's just doing this awareness exercise. It's having your eyes wide open. It's watching yourself for when you have those point of pride moments and you go, okay, what am I so proud of here? What is so significant about that? And if you have a happiness and a lightness and an easefulness, usually there's not a big charge around the pride. You know, when you get puffy chested and when you want to kind of boast and brag about yourself, just look. Did you have to take a hard way? And is that something that you're using perhaps to prove, to defend that you are valid in some way? And then look a little bit deeper. Where have you known that something else was possible, that there was an easier path, that there was a lighter path? And because the world doesn't validate that, because other people value hard work, or because you got something from a hard path, that's what's getting created here. A lot of us have actually been patted on the back time and time and time again for overcoming tricky circumstances. I'm one of those people. I've written a multi-award winning book about overcoming something like that. And it's just kind of fascinating to look at the perspective that comes of when I go through something hard and I overcome it, then all of a sudden I'm able to facilitate other people through it. It gives me authority where other people don't have authority. It's again a point of pride that comes up. It's a proof that I did something good. All these weird things start coming up with that. So start doing some introspective work with that this week. Start to look to see where you are letting yourself go down the rabbit hole, where there was a hard circumstance, and instead of just acknowledging your change through it, your ability to let it go, your ability to then go, now I'm ready for something more easeful. I've been through enough. Thank you very much. And it is possible to facilitate change in other people without having to live through the same crap that they put themselves through. It's kind of fascinating to look at those of you out there who are in people professions. You're facilitating, you're helping, you're caregiving. How often, in order to have quote unquote empathy, you dive headfirst into the same woes that your clientele has in order to understand it better, in order to have the authority and the realness in it, right? What if it could be different? What if, from the perspective of ease and having that spacious perspective of I don't have to go into it, but I can still have awareness and help facilitate people from that space without going in? What is truly possible from there? That is something I'm playing with big, big time. If I don't have to go through upset in order to have the awareness, what else could I actually be gifting folks? So enjoy this episode. Please pick it apart for yourself. Again, the change in our living, the lightness of our living comes from the inner work that then bleeds out, because that's where you change your point of view. And your point of view is what creates your reality. If you're starting to try to change things from the outside in by changing circumstances, thinking that's going to lighten up your inner space, that's actually much harder to do. Start with the inner. Look at those point of views that are tripping you up and making your life harder than it needs to be. Look to see why. Where is pride coming in? Where are you creating it based off the judgment and the resentments of others? And where perhaps are you doing it in order to have more empathy and understanding to the way the people around you choose to live? What if it could be different for you? What if life truly could be one of ease, one of joy, one of glory, and one of way more fun than you could possibly imagine? And what if you could still have an impact on the world from there? Have an amazing week. Let me know how this goes. And as always, I will chat with you next Tuesday.